refer to it as a ice blonde, but hey.
Yeah, it comes fast. I mean, buddy of mine hadn't seen me in about a year, and he goes, "Damn, you're getting gray." And I go, "Oh, it's better than having no hair, I guess." So
Like I
I go
had,
to
yeah.
these events, and all these older guys my age, I make that comment, and they're balding. I'm not balding, so just graying.
I've held most of it together, yeah.
Yeah,
Good news is it's there.
yeah.
So what are
So,
you working on?
um, I'm working on. I went to an Industry 4.0 conference at MEDC Automation Alley, whole
Yep.
bunch of different groups put on in Detroit back in December. And so the original premise was and in fact, I interviewed uh, Natalie Chaminko yesterday from the MEDC who runs the program. Finally got her on my show. And they as an MEDC want to have 6,200 of the 12,000 manufacturers plugged into Industry 4.0 in Michigan, I mean, by 2025, 2 years away.
Yep.
And the latest guesstimates I got from LTU's Industry 4.0 accelerator there at Centropolis from Scott Phillips was he thought maybe somewhere in the vicinity of 4,000 companies in Michigan were using some elements of Industry 4.0, whether it's a
So vague.
lot, you know. So I essentially called her bluff and I said, Really, you want to add 2,000 more of these folks in the next 2 years? And what we're running into in my interviews is, the OEMs, the tier ones have lots of dough, so it's no big deal for them. The tier two is, however, a whole different thing. They don't have the money. They're not persuaded this is going to make them money or save them money. It's an educational process. And the MEDC is throwing a paltry $25,000 at them to experiment with Industry 4.0. Well, that doesn't buy you a hell of a lot of high tech stuff for 25 grand, right? So, I can what I can do after this is it's on my website now, the interview with her. But if you get a chance, get it. It's a 15-minute interview. Take a look at that
Yeah,
too.
I will. I
After we're
will.
done, if you see something in there you want to comment on, just fire me back an email. So essentially, that was in my business. It's called the confrontation interview, although it wasn't really confrontational. But what I'm just trying to understand, I've been covering manufacturing for a long
Yep.
time. I covered the auto industry. I've covered Boeing. I've covered the Silicon Valley. I understand manufacturing, and I understand what's going on with Industry 4.0. They're trying to make it a lot more efficient. They're trying to connect the workers. They're trying to, be more agile. They're trying to be more efficient. All this jazz. But what I haven't, and I'm trying to have you help me pull together all the pieces in the sense of where are we really at in Michigan on Industry
Yeah.
4.0? And that's what you guys do. So where are we? And if you want to share anything, I can put this on multiple share.
Yeah,
You,
do. I'm trying to. So we made the brilliant decision to be kind of Industry 4.0 techie cool and went to a cloud-based system. I find it to be a struggle right now. I'm trying to download something while I'm talking to you, and it shouldn't take this long. So I can point you to for background stuff. During oh man, let me see. During the depths of the pandemic,
yep,
it's not letting me. How about that?
technology,
Shoot. Yeah. So it's not letting me. That's fascinatingly disappointing. We did a project where we had the tech industry sponsor us on a kind of a digital transformation. We called it at the time Industry X because it was based with some help from one of the consulting firms that use that phrase. But it was a digital transformation project. And if you look back in 2021 January, I think we finally published it. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there, and I'll pull on some of that for right now. But if I can share. Oh, auto say. I don't. I'm sorry. I'm being recorded. I'll have to be positive about new technology.
And
I
this
love
is
new tech.
being recorded, so I don't have to take notes. So
I
I'm not
know.
going to
I know.
actually pull this out and put you in a video clip or anything.
I
So,
know. But I still. So how come I can't share? Share screen. I'm going to do a simple share screen on something to
yep,
start with.
yep,
And then get to yours. So we did this work, and you see the sustainable automated digital and electric slide up.
yep. See it.
Um, we did this work, and it was clear that there's a lot left to be done, and a lot of uncertainty at these companies, the big companies, and the big suppliers, the big vehicle manufacturers, and clearly, Mike, the mid-level and smaller Michigan manufacturers. But I'll throw this out there as a starting point for our discussion. You know, when I look at the industry right now, I see four things that are literally game changers, literally watershed moments in the industry potentially. And all four of them are happening in tandem or not tandem, in parallel. There's sustainability, which curiously enough, during the depression during the pandemic, we
Same
heard
thing.
more we heard more, it was pretty damn depressing. We heard more of our affiliates, more of our companies come to us and say, yes, we know we have this shock in the system right now, but we really want to start exploring and thinking about sustainability because it is something that we think in the future, near future, we're going to have to be very knowledgeable about, and we want to do good. Yeah, there's been a lot of greenwashing and a lot of things going on there, but there's also this really strong undercurrent right now of um, developing a sustainable business model, which is not going to be a cheap investment over the coming decades.
Oh, very expensive. Yeah.
There's also been very maybe it's cooled down a little bit, but this enormous, incredible amount of money spent on automated and connected vehicles, um, and not much of it's come back for it to actually pay for itself. And there's going to be a whole lot more spent before something really is a return on investment. And I'll come back to that in a moment because there's a connection here. Literally. And then obviously, Center for Automotive Research book of deals that we do on investment by the automakers, $53 billion in announced investment last year, 2022, in plants, manufacturing plants, or assembly plants, engine transmission, battery plants. $53 billion announced for North America. 50 billion of it was for electrified vehicles. $50 billion being spent to change over to electrification. Electrification, sustainability, and automated are all taking money, focus, and risks. That leaves us with the fourth one, this digital transformation, which everyone we speak with, and going back to that project is maybe a focal point, said, yes, we're doing it. And yes, we think we're doing good things, but we don't know. It's hard for it's really hard to get proof of concepts to show some profitability on these things on a regular basis. So we have to challenge to get it into the company. It is happening. And I think the takeaways from this slide, and I'll stop sharing in a minute, is, man, there's a lot of money being spent on stuff. And suppliers, this has been a pitch of mine for a while, but now that we're going through what looks like more than a financial blip, suppliers don't have money to spend on any of this.
Well,
And
suppliers below the tier ones, they have money because.
they don't have money to spend on it. They have money to survive,
Oh,
but
really? So even the
they aren't
tier ones are
rich.
struggling, huh?
They aren't rich. Heck no. Think of Delphi, the former Delphi, which is now Borg Warner. At this point, Borg Warner spent a lot of money acquiring stuff. Borg Warner knows that a lot of their technology, if electrification happens, a lot of their money-making technology right now, the stuff they make money on, is going away. All of the industry is struggling. The profits stayed with the vehicle manufacturers over the last 18 months. Suppliers got less of it, much less of it, but they have to adapt to this. And as you go tier to tier to tier, I think you see the same increased challenge with this. So when we look at the vehicle manufacturers, yes, they're all trying to implement pieces and large pieces in some cases of in Industry 4.0 or digital transformation. They're doing it, but then they're doing it, and this comes with the bigger companies, suppliers as well. They're doing this over layers of other investment. They've acquired companies. They have different processes, different equipment, different technologies at different plants, based on when they acquired the plant, who they got it from, whether it was, if you look at Nissan and all of the acquisitions or partners they've had there. If you look at Stellantis is a mishmash of a whole bunch of different companies and a whole bunch of different cultures and a whole bunch of different technologies. You look at Delphi, I keep saying Delphi, you look at Borg Warner, they are a mishmash of a whole lot of different cultures, a whole lot of different plants, a whole lot of different technologies. It's hard to implement a common system in that sense. As you go down then to the smaller companies, they look at that circle of opportunity, circle of investment I showed, and think, okay, what are the things that we have to do to survive? And it's hard, I think, sometimes for them to look at that and say, out of all those things, we're going to put our bets on digital transformation, and let's throw money into that because that's our way out. It's a hard sell. It's not one that isn't important. And as manufacturers and everyone in the industry tells us, the data, I think the phrase we used in that report, which I actually loved, I think I came up with it, the data is flowing farther and faster than it ever has before. It's going from product development through product ideation, through product creation, through product development, through manufacturing, through assembly, onto the suppliers, and even afterlife. But to get that data, the companies have to be digitally ready. And there are a lot of holes right now in that flow.
What are some of the
given you a
biggest
pitch.
holes? I mean, everybody's talking about the connected worker. I know that's a goal, but are we any kind of close to getting the connected worker?
So I'll take a little bit different angle on the worker because I think that's something we hear a lot about. On a digital level, when you're talking about the process people, there's operations technology and there's information technology. And car companies are struggling, suppliers, car companies, everyone is struggling to get those IT people to understand OT and those manufacturing people, those OT people to understand IT. And I think one of the guys made a great quote. It was, they're standing on opposite sides of the river and we got to get them to meet in the middle. But you got to understand it's a very fast moving river and it's very deep. And trying to get them to interact, to connect is really a challenge because you're talking about getting people that are on the IT side that understand the manufacturing process and vice versa. We also heard a lot about the employees. The production people. And it was interesting. There was a lot of stereotype discussion. So that caveat there. But they talked about this continuing challenge between the knowledge base in the experienced, older employees, but their lack of technology interest, savvy, or even interest, and the technology savvy of the younger employees, but their absolute lack of experience and knowledge. And we heard examples of companies that were setting up mentorships, two-way mentorships for the experienced employee to help the less experienced employee understand the processes. Again, that operation. How does the thing work? What does it mean when it does this? But then the younger, less experienced employees helping the other group, the more experienced employees, understand technology better. Regardless, it's a different kind of skill set that they're trying to hire now. Um, and that challenge, of course, only comes into play if you're actually implementing the stuff. And that challenge is still out there for these companies.
Well, the other situation I hear a lot of, and I can totally understand it, having worked in an auto supplier plant for 3 years, is these really tech savvy kids, they get into an auto plant and they go, this is way too much work. I don't want to do this. They last about 2 months. Company has spent a bunch of money training them, and they just say, fuck it, walk out the door. I mean, are you hearing that too?
Yes. But you know what? You remember Sean McLendon?
Oh, yeah.
Sean and I did a report in 1994. 29 freaking years ago, Mike, which goes back to our gray hair discussion. um, I remember he took the vehicle manufacturers and he did a very Sean like data driven analysis. I took the suppliers and the manufacturers on the soft sides and interviewed a lot of them and talked to them about this. And you know what they said? They said, we can't find young people to come in here and pay attention and want to work. And they said, everything you're saying and we hear about the current generation. Takeaway part A on that is the younger generation never works as hard as the older generation. It's always the case. Your dad thought you were a slacker. Okay, maybe not. Our dads thought we were great people, but so there is some of that. But yes, we hear a lot of examples and a lot of challenges in getting people to even consider manufacturing. And I think that the opportunity to make manufacturing more digitally enhanced is a great opportunity, yet it's still a lot harder than sitting at your desk playing a video game or sitting at your desk doing some IT work somewhere. Although it can be part of it. So yeah, to your point, yes, absolutely. And it's kind of every generation thinks that next generation is a slacker.
Well, the other thing too, what the pandemic did was accelerate the being able to work remotely, virtually, all these things that I wanted. Well, I've been working remotely ever since I
Yeah.
left the Free Press in 2000. But I mean, that a lot of other people wanted to do, and it's a kind of a two-edged sword in the sense of for the American companies that can't get their people in here with the H-1B visa limits, doesn't matter anymore. They can work with them remotely from wherever they are in the world, still get that talent. But the point being is, for all these technologically savvy kids, they can do the same thing. They can sit in their living room like I'm doing right now, work with anybody around the world, which is what I do. And why do they want to go into a factory and now with, gosh, if they're really plugged into Chat GPT, I'm reading all these stories. You can make two, three, $400,000 a year using that. Why in the hell would they want to go to a factory making $18 an hour and grind it out doing some menial task? I mean, it's a real challenge.
And yes, it is. And some of the people that will do that don't want to be a technology wonk, um, may look to the factory, but then they'll probably be the ones that are less interested in the technology. And therefore you're running into selecting those less interested in it just by all of the things you describe. All of those things are bits and pieces of why this becomes a real big challenge for the industry and for manufacturing. And I would argue even for things like healthcare, where you have to be at a place at a certain time
Oh,
and you
yeah.
can't do it digitally. A lot of those sectors that are now looked upon as ball and chain sectors, you got to be there.
Let me also ask, this is a question I put to Ms. Chaminko from the MEDC. Uh, you know, the more I dig into this, the more I discover, particularly with the tier twos and threes, they're like second, third generation factories. They've always done something a certain way, and by God, that's the way we're going to keep doing it. And so maybe the auto industry is not exactly the target for Industry 4.0 in the sense of they're so hidebound, they're so traditional, they're sort of, I wouldn't say anti-technology, but they're certainly not pro-technology. When you've got other industries, say like medical devices, green energy, healthcare, that they embrace the whole idea of, yes, we got great new technology, let's use it. Well, the auto industry, as we both know, since we both in it, covered it a long time, that's not the auto industry, right?
Well, yes, fair. We'll take a different angle on it, and one that we've certainly talked about with companies over the last 3 years often. Does a shift to a new technology product, new vehicle technology, offer the chance to reimagine, sorry to use reimagine, to reimagine how you manufacture stuff? And this industry, again, just going back to my circle of expenses there, is spending a boatload of money on new technology. With that new technology comes new suppliers. Um,
Exactly.
with that technology comes old suppliers with new plants, at least. And therefore, the opportunity for the industry to move forward is probably happening quicker than if it weren't for a technology or a product technology revolution. And we talked to several vehicle manufacturers about how they're doing their IT and their digital transformation in their battery electric vehicle facilities, and ask the simple question: Would you is your change in digital transformation due to a new product process, or would this be happening anyway if you just were doing the old technology, the ICE basically? And they said we would be doing it anyway, but the rapid speed of change is allowing us to do this much more rapidly at the assembly line or at others. And I think as you go down through the automotive industry supply chain, you see that as well. It's undergoing a crazy revolution in technology, and that product technology is driving a revolution in manufacturing technology or manufacturing processes, which can enable digital transformation. It doesn't have to, but it can.
Yeah. The other thing I asked Chominko is ISO 9000 eventually had to be mandated because they're just slow getting on board with that. And so I put that question already to GM, and they said no. Kind of, my point is, does that phrase, if you want to work with us, you have to be Industry 4.0 compliant or partially there or somewhat there. Can they demand that of the supply chain? And GM said, no, we can't do that because it's tough enough to get our supply chain to work with us as it is without mandating it. Then when I asked Chominko that very same question, she said, well, it's not going to necessarily be a mandate. It's just what you just said. If you don't convert to these processes and the people you're supplying use these processes, they're just going to go to somebody else, or better yet, they're just going to take it in house and do it themselves, and you're going to lose the business totally. So, while it won't be a mandate, it will be just a fait accompli kind of thing. What do you think of that?
And I think that that worries me as a researcher about the Michigan's mid-size and small suppliers, because they may lack the resources, the desire, or the capability to do this, and that may put them at a disadvantage. However, they also, again, the resources, they may not be able to afford to do it. Therefore, it's no choice. I think there's also this, we've been doing a lot of work in that sustainability quadrant we had up there. The companies are asking, the vehicle manufacturers are asking their suppliers to develop and adopt sustainable practices. But if you think about it, each vehicle manufacturer has their own set of expectations. And so for any one supplier, you have as many expectations as you have customers, multiplied by purchasing product development and sustainability, because purchasing is probably giving you a different message than the
Oh,
product
absolutely.
engineers.
Purchasing has always been looking for the cheapest parts, right? You
And
know?
so, and sustainability is saying you've got to reach these goals as our, um, I have to liken that to what can happen with digital. You're getting a message from automaker A to implement these technologies. That may be coming from their IT department, that may be coming from their engineering department, that may be probably not coming from their purchasing department unless it's purchasing data. All three of those have to be coordinated. But layer on top of that the fact that companies B, C, D, and E are going to ask you to do something probably different. And how do you invest in that? And there's a lot of effort on interoperability and a lot of effort on that. But overall, it's a noble, I think, a good thing, path to move down, but it's going to be really challenging for the mid-size and below suppliers, even for the larger suppliers, but especially for those mid-sized and small Michigan suppliers that you and I have over the years gotten so familiar with.
Yeah, there's 12,000 manufacturers in Michigan, according to the MEDC. You may have better data. I just don't see a lot of them surviving for another 5 years or so, particularly if they can't afford to plug in all these Industry 4.0 technologies that the OEMs want. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but could be a lot of people losing their jobs, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Like I've said a few times. It's really a challenge, and one that we are concerned. I think we are concerned that the suppliers, the industry, is getting hit with a lot of really challenging stuff. And really cool opportunities and chance to make the product different and a chance to make the product a better product and a more sustainable product and a lot more efficiently, make it a lot more efficiently. But each one of those is going to cost investment.
Well, yeah, and the argument, or not argument, but the point I was making with some of them I interviewed was, well, the idea is this is going to drive down your costs, make you more efficient, make you more agile, make you more responsive to the higher ups in your tiers. And they go, that's swell, but if we don't have the money, how do we do that? So I put that question back to MEDC, which has come up with this paltry $25,000. And I said, I talked to the Manufacturing Growth Alliance folks who represent a lot of the tier twos, and they said that's a drop in the bucket. What we need is probably 6 times that, $150,000 for some of these small shops just to implement some basic things, not even the full gamut of all that stuff. And I said, the Michigan's sitting on a $9 billion surplus right now. What's the chances that the legislature and the governor are going to peel off $1 billion and support manufacturers? And of course, MEDC couldn't answer that question because that's a political question. But what do you think?
I think there's a lot of ways to spend that money, and I think that I won't answer that question because it's a political question. But I do think that as I've said over and over, and I have a client call that's starting in about 10 seconds.
Oh, sorry.
But the state wants to support manufacturing, but it's going to be costly to support that manufacturing. But I guess the balance is, Mike, how costly is it going to be to not support that manufacturing?
That's a good walk away. All right. What I'm going to do, Brett, is I'll send you that interview with Chemenko. You take a look at it. And if you have any comments you want to make, either we can do this again or you can just email your comments to me.
All right. Appreciate it, man. Good to see you again.
You too. We're just in Ann Arbor. We'll have to get together for lunch one of these days.
I'm still here. I have gone nowhere.
Okay,
so
cool.
I'll let you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.